Suppose the rarest moments in nature aren't rare because they're far away, but because they open for only a few seconds, like a door that closes the instant you realize it was there. And that's what makes them unforgettable. Some arrive with force so violent it steals your breath. Others with a calm so complete the noise in your head simply falls away. Only a few standout glimpses among countless moments the planet reveals, only on its own terms. It begins at Nazare, where the hidden Nazare Canyon can amplify Atlantic swell into giant waves, drawing elite surfers and reminding everyone that skill never cancels risk. Then the intensity shifts along the wild coast during the sardine run, when billions of sardines move north from the Agulhas Bank toward Mozambique to spawn, an immense migration that becomes a moving feast for dolphins, sharks, whales, and seabirds, with danger waiting above and below the surface. And then the world turns quiet at Jellyfish Lake in Palau, a marine lake in the Rock Islands where golden jellyfish drift in slow daily patterns, making the water feel like a different kind of time. So what has to align for moments like these to appear at all? When a small shift in season, current, or light can make them vanish as if nothing happened. And when the same planet can swing from overwhelming power to deep stillness, what does it reveal about how little of the natural world we truly notice? Stay with us as we follow 1 in a billion moments across Earth. Some dangerous, some peaceful, all unrepeatable, captured only when the world decides to show them. Sardine Run. A silver current gathers beneath the surface, and the ocean feels like it's holding its breath for a surge of life that should not be possible at this scale. Along the wild coast, the Sardine Run is not a sightseeing event, but a survival migration. A hard push north where the route itself becomes a test of endurance and timing. In some years, the movement involves around 1 billion sardines, a number so large it stops sounding like biology and starts sounding like weather sweeping through the sea. They travel as one body because a single sardine is easy to erase, but a school can behave like a system, shifting, tightening, and turning in unison like a living shield. When pressure arrives, the mass compresses into bait balls, a defensive mechanism that trades space for confusion, creating too many targets and too much motion for any one attacker to follow cleanly. And the danger does not come from one direction or one species, because fast hunters cut from the sides, heavier bodies surge from below, and dark shapes strike from above, all trying to break the formation. In that squeeze, the water flashes with silver and panic at the same time, because every turn is a choice between staying inside the protection of the group or becoming the one that falls out. The predators are not the story's villains. They are the toll of the corridor, the moving obstacle course the sardines must cross if they want this migration to mean anything. What makes the moment almost unbearable is how quickly the balance can flip, when a tight defense becomes a trap and the sea turns into a feeding storm that rewrites itself every second. But nature builds its counterweight into the same species, because sardines answer overwhelming loss with overwhelming abundance, spawning in numbers that keep the migration alive, even when the route is brutal. So the run becomes a paradox you can actually witness in real time. Fragility surviving through scale, and fear held together by choreography that is both instinct and mathematics. And that is the sardine run moment. A brief, ferocious opening where an ordinary fish becomes a collective force, pushing through a gauntlet of predators toward the simplest command of life: repeat. Giant waves. A black line lifts on the Atlantic horizon and keeps climbing until the sea stops looking like water and starts looking like a moving wall with weight, speed, and intent. At Nazare, the hidden Nazare Canyon funnels deep ocean swell into a tighter corridor, then drives it onto a sudden, shallow shelf, concentrating massive energy into one narrow strike zone right off the coast. Far offshore, the swell can travel with deceptive calm, but near shore, the seabed rises sharply, slows the base of the wave first, and forces the face to stand up fast, steep, and unnaturally tall. As the wave fronts bend and converge like a lens, power stacks into the same stretch of water, so a set can jump from big to unthinkable in the span of a few heartbeats. When wind direction, tide timing, and swell period finally lock together, the surface tightens, the face turns momentarily smooth and glassy, and the ocean looks briefly organized, right before it snaps into violence. The lip pitches forward with a heavy, hollow drop, and the impact zone detonates into aerated whitewater so brutal it can steal balance, visibility, and even your sense of direction in a single instant. This is the short window elite big wave surfers chase, reading the horizon and the gaps between sets with clinical focus, because the difference between a clean line and disaster can be one late second and one bad angle. A wipeout here is not just a fall. It can be a long hold down inside foaming water that won't let you breathe normally, where boards tumble, leashes yank, and the next wave can land on the same spot before you fully surface. Even on land, the danger does not stay offshore. With spray-slick rock, sudden rogue sets, and surging backwash that can pull spectators toward the edge if they misjudge distance by just a step. And that is the Nazare moment. A few seconds when the canyon, the swell, and the wind align into raw power at full scale. Beautiful, merciless, and impossible to summon twice in exactly the same way. Tree climbing goats. On a sun-bleached roadside, dark shapes appear high in the branches, and for a second your mind insists they must be birds, until one of them turns its head and you realize it's a goat. In parts of Morocco, goats climb into argan trees, balancing on narrow limbs with the calm focus of animals that have learned a rule the landscape never explains. The scene feels impossible because goats are built for rock, slope, and rough ground, not for perching above the earth like fruit pickers suspended in the sky. But when grazing thins and the argan fruit is within reach, they step up through the lower branches, using rough bark, friction, and tiny, careful adjustments that keep their hooves from slipping. From below, the canopy can look dotted with goats, as if someone placed them there on purpose, each one standing in stillness, chewing slowly, and treating height as if it were just another kind of ground. What makes this a true one-in-a-billion moment is the contrast it creates in one frame. A dry, tough horizon on the outside, and a strange, floating pocket of life gathered where you least expected. Sometimes a herder waits nearby while the animals feed, and the whole tableau becomes a quiet partnership between instinct and routine, shaped by a land that rewards improvisation. The risk is real because a thin limb can flex, a hoof can slide, and one wrong step can mean a hard fall. Yet the goats keep choosing balance over panic with disciplined calm. That is the tree-climbing goats moment. Nature solving hunger in plain sight, turning a harsh landscape into a ladder, and reminding you that impossible often means rarely seen. Jellyfish Lake. Sunlight slips into a hidden lake and turns the water the color of honey. And for a second, it feels like the ocean has forgotten how to make noise. Jellyfish Lake in Palarock Islands, sheltered from the open sea's constant push, so the world here runs on a softer, slower rhythm. The calm is the first surprise, because nothing crashes or surges, and the silence is so complete it makes the outside coastline feel unreal by comparison. Then the lake reveals its secret in motion. Thousands of golden jellyfish drifting together, so gentle and synchronized that it looks less like swimming and more like light learning how to breathe. They pulse in slow waves, and the entire swarm shifts almost as one body, turning the water into a living field where every movement is smooth, measured, and strangely reassuring. For a moment, the mind keeps waiting for the usual tension of the wild. Something sudden, something sharp. But the lake refuses that script, and the absence of threat becomes the wonder. When you slip into the water with a mask and snorkel, the experience turns intimate because the jellyfish part around you without panic, then close again behind your shoulders as if you were never there. Floating among them feels like moving through a quiet, glowing weather system, where the only sound is your own breathing and the gentle pressure of water sliding past. The lake's stillness can be almost emotional, not because it is sentimental, but because it offers a rare kind of peace, life in motion without violence, urgency, or noise. And that is where the story turns, because a place this calm is also fragile, balanced on conditions so delicate that careless kicks, grabbing hands, or anything left behind can ripple outward for longer than you think. So the real skill here is restraint. Move slowly, keep your distance, leave no trace, because the moment only stays beautiful when you treat it as borrowed. And that is the Jellyfish Lake moment, an unrepeatable opening into a different kind of wilderness, where nature doesn't overwhelm you with force, but with a quiet perfection that can disappear the instant it is taken for granted. Cano Crystallis. The river suddenly looks painted from within, as if color itself has learned to flow, and then decided to show off for a short, rare stretch of time. Cano Crystallis runs through Serrania de la Macarena National Natural Park, a place where the landscape feels like it's guarding a secret rather than advertising it. Its famous transformation is seasonal, appearing when the water is clear and at the right depth to reveal what's living on the riverbed instead of hiding it under high flow. That hidden engine is an aquatic plant called Macarenia clavigera, which can flare into vivid reds while surrounding sands, shadows, and water add greens, yellows, blues, and dark tones. When the timing locks in, the River of Five Colors stops feeling like a nickname and starts feeling like a private palette the planet only opens for a narrow window. Instead of one continuous spectacle, the color comes in scenes, bright channels sliding over stone, calm pools holding pigment like stained glass, and sudden bends where the hue shifts with the angle of light. The wonder is how natural it feels once you're there, because the river doesn't look edited or artificial. It looks like creation chose a quieter way to be dramatic. And the moment is intimate, not distant, because this is a river you can stand beside and watch change in real time as clouds pass and sunlight returns. That intimacy is exactly why protection matters, with strict local guidance that limits where swimming is allowed and discourages oils and creams that can harm the fragile plant beds. And that is the Cano Crystallis moment, a brief opening when biology, light, and water align into living color, then fade again, leaving you with the feeling you witnessed something the world never promised to repeat. Termite mounds. A field of rust-colored towers rises from flat country, and it feels like you've stumbled onto an abandoned city built for a species that never shows itself. In Northern Territory, especially around Litchfield National Park, termite mounds stand in clusters across the floodplains, like natural monuments that appear too deliberate to be accidental. Some magnetic mounds reach about 6.5 feet high, while the towering cathedral mounds can rise to about 26 feet, turning tiny builders into architects of skyline-scale forms. What makes the sight unsettling is the mismatch between cause and result. Soft-bodied insects, working grain by grain, producing structures that look like stone, spires, and buttresses in open air. In certain areas, the mounds even take on a wedge shape and line up north to south, as if the whole landscape has been marked with a compass you can read from a distance. That alignment is not decoration, it's strategy, because shaping the mound's exposure to the sun helps manage heat load across the day in a place where temperature can become its own predator. Inside, the mound is not a solid pile but a working machine, with passages that move air, regulate humidity, and support the colony's climate control even when outside conditions swing hard. Stand beside one in the midday glare, and the tower feels less like a nest and more like an organism, breathing invisibly through vents you can't see, running an internal world behind a sealed wall. That's the shock of the moment. The mega project is not steel or concrete, but patience in physics, repeated until the ground itself seems to have grown architecture. And that is the termite mound's moment, quiet, precise, and otherworldly. When Australia shows you that some of nature's greatest structures are built by the smallest lives, on rules older than any blueprint. Steam rolls off a pale blue cauldron in thick, slow sheets, and the ground seems to breathe, hissing, shifting, and quietly warning you that nothing here is truly solid. Frying Pan Lake sits in the Waimangu Volcanic Rift Valley, where geothermal heat is so close to the surface that even silence feels charged. It spreads across about 9 acres, so the boil is not a single bubbling corner, but an entire basin simmering at once, with vapor drifting like weather across its own shoreline. The water can sit around 120 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to make the calm surface feel deceptive, because what looks peaceful is still actively venting energy from below. This valley was reshaped by the eruption of Mount Tarawera, and the lake reads like an afterword to that violence. Crater walls, heat pathways, and water gathered where the land was torn open. Across the surface, gas rises in constant pulses, sending ripples through the steam as if the lake is quietly boiling in its own rhythm, never fully resting even when the wind drops. Beauty and hazard share the same frame here, which is why the safest way to experience it is with discipline. Stay on marked tracks, respect barriers, and treat geothermal ground as unforgiving even when it looks harmless. And that is the Frying Pan Lake moment, the planet briefly letting you stand close to its inner heat, where scale becomes real, air becomes steam, and nature reminds you that awe is not the same thing as safe. A cool hush takes over as you step underground, and the ceiling begins to rain in slow motion, as if the cave is counting seconds with water instead of clocks. Beneath the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia, Luray's chambers are packed with speleothems, stone formations built drop by drop, quietly over spans that don't fit human patience. The trick is simple and unbelievable. Mineral-rich water slips through limestone, releases carbon dioxide, and leaves behind calcite that hardens into the first thin ring of a future sculpture. Stalactites reach down like slow-growing icicles. Stalagmites rise to meet them, And when they finally connect, a single column can look like a completed pillar in a natural cathedral. Flowstone spreads in sheets and draperies that resemble folded fabric, and the cave's mirrored pools double the illusion until you stop trusting your sense of depth. Color arrives as a quiet signature. Pure calcite reads pale, while traces from soils and rock layers tint sections with warmer tones that feel painted rather than deposited. The air holds steady at about 54 degrees Fahrenheit, so the experience stays calm and controlled, even when the formations around you look dramatic and oversized. And the real suspense is the pace. New deposits are measured at roughly 1 cubic inch every 120 years, which turns every drip into a decision you'll never see completed. Then the cave does something stranger. At the great stalactite organ, selected stalactites are struck to produce musical tones, so geology becomes sound without losing its age. That is the Luray Speleothems moment, a brief walk inside deep time, where water writes stone, silence carries weight, and nature's patience becomes something you can finally witness. A near-perfect bowl is carved into the desert, so clean-edged it feels less like erosion and more like the ground being punched and left speechless. Barringer Crater sits in northern Arizona, United States, a visible scar from a cosmic impact that turned a split second into a permanent landscape. The crater spans about 3/4 of a mile across and drops about 600 feet deep, wide enough to swallow your sense of scale the longer you stare into its walls. About 50,000 years ago, an iron asteroid slammed into this plain, blasting rock outward and leaving a rim and ejecta pattern that still reads like frozen motion. What makes it unsettling is the contrast between the quiet air today and the violence implied by the geometry, as if the desert is calmly holding evidence from a moment it refuses to reenact. Because it is unusually well preserved, the site has become a real-world stand-in for other worlds, studied as an analog for planetary exploration, and even used to train astronauts in impact geology. And that is the Barringer Crater moment, a door that opened for seconds in the sky, then closed, leaving a clean, brutal imprint you can still walk up to and understand with one glance. A neon blue fire spills across black rock in the dark, and for a moment the crater looks like it is leaking light instead of lava. At Kawah Ijen in Indonesia, the color comes from sulfur-rich gases that ignite as they meet oxygen, creating an electric blue flame that only looks like blue lava from a distance. Sulfur can burn once it's hot enough, above about 680 degrees Fahrenheit, and near the vents the heat can push the glowing flow to around 1,100 degrees Fahrenheit, so the light feels alive and slightly unreal. Some of the gas condenses into liquid sulfur that keeps burning as it runs downhill, turning the crater floor into brief, moving rivers of blue that seem to slide faster than your eyes can settle. Just a short distance away, a turquoise crater lake sits like a calm trap, with measurements showing parts of the water can be below 0.3 on the pH scale, making the stillness look deceptively gentle. The air can sting with sulfur compounds, and the same chemistry that makes the glow possible also makes the crater feel unforgiving, as if every breath has to be earned. In that harshness, sulfur miners still work near the vents, moving through fumes and heat to collect bright yellow deposits that look harmless until you remember what they came from. The spectacle is at its sharpest before dawn, because daylight washes the flame away and turns something supernatural into something you could miss with one late step. So the blue fire becomes a true one-in-a-billion window, a few minutes where darkness, chemistry, and heat align, and the planet lets you see energy moving with its mask off. And that is the Kawa Ijen moment, creation showing its brightest color at night, beautiful and dangerous at the same time, impossible to command, and unforgettable once it appears. The horizon shimmers like a mirage, the air tastes of minerals, and the ground looks freshly poured, salt, sulfur, and color hardening in plain sight. In the Danakil Desert of Ethiopia, the landscape feels less like a destination and more like the planet's engine room, exposed for a brief, unnerving look. Parts of this depression sit about 330 feet below sea level, and it is described as one of the hottest places on Earth by year-round average, with little rain for most of the year. Near Dalal, acidic hydrothermal fluids seep and steam through mineral crust, painting the ground in sharp yellows, greens, and reds that look unreal because they are chemistry made visible. Even the normal air here is extreme. Dalal is cited for an average annual temperature around 94 degrees Fahrenheit. So the moment is not just what you see, but what the heat does to your attention and breath. Underneath, the story is tectonic. The Afar Triple Junction is where rifts meet and plates pull apart, making this desert a front-row seat to Earth splitting in slow motion. And then the scale jumps again at Erta Ale, a continuously active volcano known for a long-lived lava lake. An open, glowing reminder that the crust here is thin enough to show what's underneath. This is beauty with teeth. Brittle salt crust can hide sharp edges, fumes can sting, and the heat punishes hesitation. So every step feels like a negotiation with the ground. Yet people still move through this furnace world, including camel caravans that have long carried salt across the flats, turning the scene into a living line between survival and tradition. And that is the Danakil moment, when the planet briefly lets you witness creation without softness. A harsh, otherworldly window where geology is not past tense, but present. A white tower rises from a frozen plain, venting mist into the air like a breath you can see, and the whole scene feels impossible, an eruption in a world locked solid. In southeastern Kazakhstan, an ice volcano has appeared in the Almaty region, drawing people in because it looks like geology performing a trick in real time. The mechanism is brutally simple. A spring keeps forcing water upward through snow and ice. The spray freezes almost instantly as it falls, and each burst lays down another thin skin of ice. Layer after layer, the ice builds into a hollow cone with a vent at the top, so the eruption never stops while the flow continues, and the structure grows the way a storm grows, by repetition. At its peak, it has been reported at about 45 feet tall, a scale that makes the origin story, water droplets freezing, feel almost ridiculous until you're standing there watching it happen. Up close, the plume looks like smoke but behaves like snowfall, with fine ice crystals glittering and collapsing back onto the cone, constantly rebuilding the same surface that the next burst will strike. The tension comes from the contrast. The tower looks calm and sculpted, yet it is being made by force, and the ice underfoot can be slick enough that one careless step turns awe into panic. Locals have described the formation showing up in winter before, but only occasionally taking on such a dramatic volcanic shape, which is exactly why the site feels like a door that doesn't open on command. And that is the ice volcano moment. Cold and water aligning into a brief architecture of motion, where creation is visible, ongoing, and gone the instant the freeze stops cooperating. A stone shoreline clicks into perfect geometry, like the Earth decided to reveal its hidden grid for one clear, startling moment. At Giant's Causeway, columns of dark basalt rise out of the surf in tight clusters, forming natural steps that look carved by intention rather than time. The story is written in heat and cooling, because when a thick lava flow hardened, it contracted as it lost temperature and cracked into repeating shapes that fit together like a puzzle. Most of the tops settle into hexagons, so your eye reads order everywhere at once. Straight edges, clean angles, and patterns that feel almost too precise to belong to weather and rock. Walk across it and the scale keeps shifting because each stone is small enough to step on. Yet the field of columns runs outward until it feels like a road meant for something larger than people. Local legend adds its own charge, framing the place as the work of a giant building a causeway across the sea, which fits the scene because it genuinely looks engineered from a distance. When the Atlantic rolls in, the moment turns sharper. Spray darkens the basalt, the edges shine, and the stones become slick enough to remind you this beauty is not gentle. And that is the columnar basalt moment here. A brief encounter with nature building in straight lines, where chaos cools into a blueprint you can stand on and still barely explain. A pale desert meets a gray Atlantic in a hard, wind-scoured line, and the coastline feels like the edge of a world that does not want to be entered. Along Namibia's skeleton coast, cold ocean currents and frequent fog can hide the boundary between sea and land, turning ordinary distance into a trap that looks gentle until it suddenly isn't. Here, shipwrecks have been left stranded on the sand like abandoned bones, because storms, surf, and shifting bars can push vessels in and keep them from ever finding a clean way back out. The dunes seem to lean toward the water, and the wind keeps rewriting the ground, so even the landscape feels temporary, as if the coast is always in the middle of erasing something. Yet life persists in the harshness, with seals crowding the shore in noisy colonies and scavengers tracing the margins, making survival visible in a place that looks empty at first glance. Fog rolls in like a curtain, muting sound and flattening perspective, and the same beach that looked open can suddenly feel narrow, closed, and unfamiliar. For travelers, the power of the moment is the contradiction. Immense beauty, raw silence, and a constant sense that the land and sea here are not negotiating. And that is the Skeleton Coast moment, an unforgiving meeting of desert and ocean, where navigation fails, nature keeps the upper hand, and the landscape feels like a warning written in wind. A dark, perfect circle opens inside bright turquoise reef, and it looks like the ocean punched a clean hole straight through color and light. The Great Blue Hole sits near the center of Lighthouse Reef off Belize, where shallow coral suddenly gives way to a vertical blue that feels bottomless. Its opening spans about 1,043 feet across and drops to roughly 407 feet deep, a scale that turns a simple swim ring into a true void. The shape began as a limestone cave system when sea levels were lower, then collapsed and flooded as the ocean returned, leaving a submerged chamber where the roof never came back. That ancient origin still shows itself in stalactites hanging in the deep, stone drip marks from a time when this space was air, not water. From the rim, the reef looks alive and welcoming, but the center pulls the eye the way a cliff edge does, because the blue keeps darkening until it stops feeling like a color. As you descend, daylight thins and the wall becomes a smooth drop beside you, while the cave shapes appear like frozen motion, proof that the planet can hollow itself out without leaving a crack on the surface. Deeper down, the water can change character in ways you feel more than see, and the hole starts to read less like a reef feature and more like a doorway into the ocean's pressure and silence. It is protected as part of the Belize Barrier Reef Reserve System, which matters here because a place this clean-edged and rare doesn't stay that way by accident. And that is the Great Blue Hole moment, a brief encounter with a perfectly shaped absence, where the sea shows you how deep time can look when it becomes visible. A diver slips into glass-clear water in the Yucatan, and the world feels normal, until the water itself suddenly starts to shimmer as if reality is bending. In certain cenotes and flooded caves, fresh water sits on top of denser saltwater, and the boundary between them forms a halocline that behaves like an invisible membrane. As you approach it, your mask catches a strange optical distortion. Ripples, wavering lines, and a mirage effect, like you're looking through heat haze, except it's happening underwater. The moment you pass through, the temperature and density shift in a way you can feel in your body, and buoyancy changes subtly, as if the water has switched rules without warning. Behind you, your fin kicks can break the layer and turn the clean boundary into a swirling, silvery fog, so the halocline becomes visible only because you disturbed it. That's what makes the scene so unreal. Two waters sharing one space, refusing to fully mix, creating a moving seam that looks like a doorway rather than a gradient. In the dim light of cave passages, the effect can intensify because the halocline catches beams and shadows and makes the cave walls appear to warp and drift, even though nothing solid is moving. Some systems add another eerie twist below, where darker chemical layers can hang in still sheets, making it feel like you're descending through stacked atmospheres instead of water. It's beautiful, but it demands control, because careless finning can wipe out visibility instantly, and the overhead environment leaves little margin for confusion or panic. And that is the halocline moment in the Yucatan, a brief, impossible encounter where the ocean and the rainwater meet without blending, and the planet lets you watch its hidden boundaries in motion. Mist slides across a pale crater bowl, and the air carries a sharp, sulfur bite that makes the whole landscape feel newly made and slightly unwelcoming. Kawah Putih, often called the White Crater, sits in West Java, tucked into the high ground where the world feels cooler and strangely hushed. At about 30 miles south of Bandung and roughly 8,000 feet up, the temperature can sit around 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and that chill helps the mist linger like a curtain that never fully lifts. Then the lake shows its signature trick. The water can shift from bluish to whitish green, even toward brown, depending on sulfur concentration and changing conditions, so the color feels alive rather than fixed. This crater is part of Mount Patuha, and the basin reads like a quiet geothermal system. Steam, gases, and mineral chemistry doing their work without needing an eruption to feel powerful. Around the shoreline, sand and rocks look bleached and chalky, as if the lake has drained color out of them over time, leaving a stark rim that makes the water's shifting tones feel even more unreal. Standing there, the uncanny part is the contrast. A calm surface that looks almost peaceful, paired with the knowledge that the water is highly acidic and the atmosphere can sting, so beauty and hazard share the same frame. And that is the White Crater moment, an otherworldly pocket where heat, minerals, and weather briefly align into a color-changing silence, like nature showing its chemistry in plain sight. A ribbon of green light ignites above the horizon and unfurls across the Arctic sky, twisting and folding like silent fire that keeps rewriting its own shape. Inside the Arctic Circle, the night can feel absolute and endless, until the darkness suddenly starts moving overhead, as if the atmosphere itself has turned into a living curtain. The aurora forms when charged particles from the sun ride Earth's magnetic field down toward the poles and collide with high-altitude gases, releasing color and pulses you can watch change second by second. One moment it's a faint glow like distant fog, and the next it sharpens into bright arcs and fast ripples that race across the sky with a speed that feels almost unreal in the still cold air. Greens often dominate, but hints of red and violet can appear as the energy shifts, and different gases respond at different heights. So the sky looks layered, deep, and impossibly alive. And that is the aurora moment, a brief alignment of space and atmosphere that turns darkness into motion and meaning, then fades as quickly as it arrived, leaving you unsure how something so immense could vanish so cleanly.